then when we spoke of the new human in a new normal. And that is what is happening today. And so it is.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. The pendulum of reality swings yet again into my corner. And there is an element of disbelief. In a group of old souls, there is always this. They say it's too easy. Some will say it's too easy to fake. And so we say this to you before we begin this discussion. It's about love. That's what it's about. It always has been, and it always will be. And it's not the love that you think. There is a force in the universe even your astronomers have recognized and seen, identified, and they call it intelligent design. Because the universe itself is biased. It's biased into creativeness. It's biased in life creation. It's biased in love. There is purpose for everything. Astronomers, science, physicists, they want to see complete and total neutrality within all things, and they don't find it. And that's one of the things we want to discuss, the power that is starting to become yours in the understanding of energies around you which you have never identified as energies that specifically are what we're going to call informational. This is one of the first multi-dimensional channelings of a series, starting to explain to you in a better fashion concepts that have been misunderstood or not explained at all, in order to start you thinking about what you can do. And that is the purpose. It's a big distance between the nucleus and the electron haze. If you could go with me to the smallest of the small, you'd find an enormous amount of emptiness. Physicists will tell you that most of you are made of nothing. And it's only because they just don't see what's in the dark. And the multidimensional truth is this: between that which is the nucleus of the atom and the electron haze, it's filled with information, energy, love, and intelligent design. Difficult to explain how this manifests itself to your reality, but that is indeed the subject. So we'll start slow and easy. There it is, my friends, a rose. Imagine it. A beautiful rose. This one's red. And you don't like it. You don't like the thorns, perhaps. Maybe you don't even like the color, perhaps. And you say to yourself, I'd like it a lot better if it was a daisy. But it's a rose. Now, in single-dimensional digit thinking, or law 3D, the scenario is this: it's too bad you've got a rose when you wanted a daisy. Because it'll always be a rose, you know. And if you could look at the seed that the rose grows from and regerminates from, it'll always be a rose. Too bad about the rose, you might say. And so the consensus of thinking and the actions around it are this: it will always be a rose, therefore I will never be able to change it. Now consider for a moment a multi-dimensional scenario where the master gardener visits the seed. Imagine for a moment that the master gardener can tell that which is the seed to systemically alter the information of what it is. And so that the next time the cells start to divide, the thorns drop off. And the color changes. And maybe, even maybe, a daisy grows instead. And what would you call this? And the answer is a miracle. And that is how you define things that look out of the purview of your dimensional reality. I want you to start looking at these things differently. I want you to start seeing information that is multidimensional as energy. A tremendous amount of what you just call energy is only information. It leads us to the next phase of this teaching. For now we give you a discovery on the planet that has been made, that is being used. And the discovery is this: that you can address the cells, that is to say, the DNA portion of the human body, to change its informational structure. Not to belabor an issue, but you must remember what the scientists discovered about DNA. 5% of it is chemical, protein-encoded, gene-producing engine. 95% seems to do nothing. So what you have is this: a DNA structure, one DNA loop that has 3 billion chemicals in it, and 5% is the engine of the biological race car called the human being. And 95% is the driver. It's a consciousness. It's energy. It's information. And it's huge. And if you could change the information in those DNA parts, what would you say to them? Well, let me give you an example of something that's already been done. Let us say you're born with a deformed heart. Here is a heart that is not operating properly. The valves don't fit. And let us say that that is who you are. A red rose with thorns. And so in your reality, you're going to die sooner. You will not operate well. You may be on drugs when you're older. And you'll always have a deformed heart. You might ask the obvious question: since all of the organs rejuvenate many times over your life, why is it systemically that those stem cells are given information to continue rejuvenating a broken heart? Why does it stay deformed? And here's the answer. Because the information stays static. Without something to change the energy of the information within the systemic system of the human body, it will always repeat what it has. The rose will always be the rose, and the thorns will always grow there. What if you could literally change the information? In the 90% of your DNA, what if you could change not only the information systemically, but even subconsciously as to who you are and why you're here? They're starting to learn how. Addressing the information energetically in DNA so that the stem cells are given a pattern of perfectness instead of the deformity. And as the heart then starts to regenerate, as all organs do, slowly it becomes a functioning heart and the valves fit. And you think that's science fiction. I'm telling you, it's being done now. For on the planet, multidimensional inventions are starting to occur. There will be many more. Pushing the envelope of your believability and changing physics. You've seen this, and you don't even know you've seen it. I'll ask you some other questions that you haven't really thought about. We brought these up before, and now we can discuss them more fully. Why can a starfish grow back an arm and you cannot? Because the programming in your body, in your DNA, in the information, the race driver driving the car has been instructed that those kinds of things only are to be done in the womb. And the instructions are always that way. And they repeat every time a cell divides. There'll come a day when you can change the instructions and you'll be able to grow back a limb. All of the chemistry is there. It's not that hard. But the instructions say you can't. And so they don't grow back. Imagine the race car driver in a splendid machine that can go for so long with instructions that he can only turn left. That's what a race car driver does, you know. What if you straighten out the racetrack and suddenly you got a left-hand only driver? What happens to the driver when the racetrack straightens out and he doesn't know how to do anything but make left turns? You got to change the information that he has. And that is what is being done. When the spinal cord is severed, there is chemistry that races to the place of the severing, so it won't grow back. Did you know that? There is a hormonal proteinal structure that actually keeps it from growing back. How does that serve humanity? Well, it doesn't. Nerves are designed to grow back. And they don't. Did you know they even have addresses, color codes? They can find each other in the dark and grow back. And they don't. Because built into the race driver's information is not to grow back a spinal cord severing. There'll come a day when you can reprogram the systemicness Stem cells exist everywhere in the human body, alive and well. They are what pattern what happens. Chemically, they are responsible for a human that is predisposed to disease. And that predisposition will be then carried to the child. And the imprint and the energy and the information of the 90% will continue and continue and continue unless it's reprogrammed. Unless the information is given to it to become different. It's not chemical. It's energy. It is multi-dimensional energy. New technology to reprogram pieces and parts of the body. Do you know what this means? There are women in the room who respond to this, who carry a gene that their ancestors carried and that they carry and that their children will carry on predispositions to certain kinds of weaknesses. And when you can rewrite your genetic print, none who follow will have it either. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Your children and your children's children will only have the reprogramming. They will not have the original information. Energy is like that. Informational energy is like that. And there's a lot of it on the planet. There are systems on the planet that have been misunderstood for a long time. Let me give you a couple. This is controversial. You may not agree. You may not like it. But I'm going to give it to you anyway. Humans love things that go bump in the night. They love to be frightened. They love to be scared. They love movies that scare them. And they love haunted places. Have you seen the upsurge in the interest of haunted places? Now let me tell you what they are and why they work the way they do. And now we get into the power of the information of the Akash. Human consciousness carries an imprint which affects the planet. And we have told you this from the beginning, 21 years of it. Human consciousness is what is going to change the planet. Human consciousness is information. It is information that you develop based upon what you think. And it's powerful. Human consciousness actually goes into what we have called the crystalline grid of the planet, which is a multi-dimensional grid. You can't see it. It holds energy. It holds information. When the planet is measured for vibration, it is the crystalline grid that is measured. And the crystalline grid only has on it what humans have put there. An interdimensional record of thought, of lifetimes, of happenings. And here's what I'm going to tell you. In certain conditions, in certain ways, a human life or an interaction of multi-lives together in a scenario that is profound for whatever reason of its profundity will create an imprint in a place. It's information and energy that will replay itself over and over and over like a recording tape in 3D. It's a haunted house. Did you know that? And here is some of the things, the attributes that we may not prove it to your psyche, but we'll give you something to think about. Did you notice that in a haunting, you have a scenario which repeats? The man comes down the stairs. The man goes up the stairs. The woman in the kitchen moves from the left to the right, sits in a chair, rocks for a while, moves away. If it involved dramatic things such as murder, the man comes down the stairs with the axe. Over and over and over and over. It's a good movie, isn't it? And that's all it is. Why does it feel the way it feels, Kryon? Because it is a result of human consciousness imprint, and you've got one too. And when you're there interfacing with it, it gives you chills. Because it's real. Now science has gotten involved, as they should, and they're noticing something. The imprint, the haunting, carries scientific attributes, and they're all multidimensional. Guess what changes? Magnetics, gravitation, light, and even time. Because what it is a multi-dimensional event imprinted onto a place on the planet that plays over and plays over and plays over. Can you capture it on tape? Uh-huh. Because it knows it's being observed. Because it's part of an imprint that is multidimensional. In a quantum sense, it knows. I can't explain that to you. You assign knowing to sentiency, that is to say, that which is intelligent in a human being. And it isn't either of those. It's a knowing that is quantum. It knows when a human being can be frightened, and it frightens it. Oh, I have more to tell you. Oh, there are things that you wouldn't believe that you can do. How would you like to get rid of that? Let's say it's in your house. Now, this may be very inappropriate, but I'll give you the answer. You're going to have to present an energy that is stronger than the imprint of a haunting. You cannot order it away. You already knew that, didn't you? No amount of huffing and puffing or calling upon God will make it different. The imprint was created by magnificent beings, sometimes seeming to do ordinary things. There's a reason for that as well. You don't know who they were. You don't know the old souls involved. You don't know who it is, really. You've got to present an energy that is stronger than the haunting. Now, what could that be? As inappropriate as it is, I will tell you. Why don't you make love in that room? That'll do it. Because that's stronger. Anyone who's been in love in the room, and there's some secrets here that I know. Beautiful ones that I know. Knows the power and the energy of humans coming together in intimacy. And the angels sing, and you create a third energy which is more powerful than the two of you. And you know it. It's sacred. It's beautiful. And it's stronger than the haunting. Maybe you didn't want to hear that today. But what about other things? What about like demon possession and all these? And I will tell you this, it's different than you think. Because there are no demons. Humanity can conjure up the most evil of the most evil, and it can do it all by itself. And you knew that too, didn't you? Because you're powerful. The pieces in God, in you, even in your mythology, are responsible for the devil himself. A fallen angel. How can that even be? It is a metaphor of what a human can do on the earth with the energy that they have. Things are not always what they seem. What about talking to the dead? And how would that work, Kryon? How could you talk to famous people when in the scheme of soul incarnation, they've already come back as others? Now, if they've already left, how can you talk to them? And the answer is this: they haven't left. Oh, the part that you think is the human left, but the imprint of them and their entire life and everything they knew, their consciousness, their wisdom, their knowledge, goes right into the crystalline grid. We've talked about this before. Can you contact famous people and get information? Yes. Will it be accurate? Of course, because you're talking to the source. The imprint remains. You mean you're not actually talking to them? You're talking to the imprint? Let me give you something to think about. I'm going to ask a question right now. It's going to be a rhetorical one. Who are you? I have old souls in front of me. There's a woman in the room who won't wear red. And you know who you are. I'll tell you why, because it got you killed. Because that was the color of the plume on your helmet, warrior. Because you were the captain, and they knew if they would take you out, your whole regiment would be in disarray, and that's what happened. Not only kill you, killed everyone around you. You'll never wear red. You just don't like the color. It's just not for you. You shun it, don't you? Old soul, who are you? Who are you? Are you the warrior who got killed? Are you the woman who won't wear red? Are you the mother? Who are you? It is a rhetorical question because in my reality, you are a piece of God. And so when you go to that place where you wish to conjure up one who has lived before and ask them questions, who are you talking to? Are you talking to the Akash of a soul? Are you talking to that which is alive or dead? I will tell you, none of those things are accurate because you don't really know. It's even more magnificent than that. Can you ask Aunt Martha where the treasure was buried? Yes! And she'll know, because you're talking to the Aunt Martha imprint. And she'll know. Now, if you ask Aunt Martha, how are things on the other side? She'll say, beautiful. What's it like over there? Lovely. No, give me some specifics. I love you. She doesn't know. Aunt Martha knows what Aunt Martha knows. You think of it in singularity, and it's not. It's powerful, it's real, and it's there to be accessed. It's multidimensional, and those with gifts can access the wisdom of the ancients. Go back and ask them what they knew. Go back and ask them how it felt. Go back and ask them where the treasure is buried. You're going to see some of this. And those in the places of magnificence on this planet, wearing the costumes of spirituality and the heads of state and religion, will call it evil and will call it occult, not understanding that you are moving into a multi-dimensional state, appropriate, accurate, true, usable, correct, helpful. All of those things. Does that make sense to you? Let me give you a concept, and this will be the last one. I've saved the complicated one for last. That's my favorite one. We haven't done this before, my partner, so get it right. I want to show you how time works. And I can't. Because the reality of the complexities of multidimensionality preclude the human being's ability to understand it. It's simply not teachable. So I will metaphorize it and give you it in its simplest form, which is only a fraction of its reality. Time. We mentioned today that it is a singularity for you. There's only one of them. There's no multiple times. There's only one. And you're on one track on the planet. You're all on the same track. That is a singularity. It only goes one speed. It always has for your life. It doesn't move. The truth of it is it moves all the time. Another truth you don't understand is that each of you can step off the track and create a faster or slower one. You don't know that either. How do we explain this? So let me singularize it and pretend you're all on the same track for a moment. That's what you think anyway. That's easy. And I want you to build a track, a train track, which is time. I want you to put an engine upon it which goes in one direction very slowly, and that's you and your life. I want you to make the train track, however, go all the way around the earth. Now, to your perception, because you can only see to the horizon, the train track goes straight. The truth of the matter, it goes all the way around the earth, and you're looking at it behind you. Create that kind of time for a moment. Now that puts time in a circle. Now that is confusing because it's a conundrum for you. In 3 dimensions, you cannot put time in a circle. It is in a circle. Because it's in a circle, however, take a look at some of the attributes that are confusing to you. Let us say your lifetime takes about 30 meters. Not very long on this track that goes around the earth, is it? So you never have to really worry about meeting your past, do you? But let's pretend for a moment you could. What would happen if you drove that engine around the earth? Eventually, you would be running over the energy of what used to be, wouldn't you? In the same way of thinking, if you went around the earth several times, eventually you might be also running over what might become. Suddenly you have an attribute of time you haven't thought about. If it's in a circle, it means the future affects the present. And you think the future hasn't happened yet. It hasn't in 3D. It has in a quantum sense. Now, I'm giving you information right now, and I'm giving it to you this way because there are scientists looking at it in that way. Is it possible that the future could give you energy and information now? Think of this train track for a moment, and let's get more complicated. It's got layers now. Every time the train goes around it, which is a human life, things change. What if it was humanity in that engine? Now you have the past, present, and the future of everything that's ever happened on one train track in a circle. Now you have a situation where you could stop the train, dig down in the tracks, and maybe if you had the ability, pick up something that either hasn't happened yet or happened before. I didn't expect you to understand it. Only listen to it. Because that's what's happening. Let's complicate it. Let's say this track has to go up some hills and down some valleys. And the hills and the valleys are always the same. If you were smart enough and had a system that understood this time, you could create bumps where it might be difficult or easy and actually put them on a map. You might even call them time fractals. And you might be right. And every time you hit that place in time, whether it was in the future or the past, you got a hill or a valley. And I want to tell you what's happening at this moment, dear human being. I just gave you the simplest way I can give you the attributes of multidimensionality when it comes to time. You are visiting potentials that in your mind have not happened, but in a quantum sense have. You are receiving a vibrational increase so that you can look at the track of time and select where you want to go. You are looking at the potentials of the quantumness of vibrational shift and creating a culture that is going to go beyond what you think it could go, because it's going to fly in the face of all prophecy. Because prophecy is based on one track that does one thing over and over in 3D. And as soon as you start to become multidimensional, information becomes energy. And in that track of time is information of the potentials. Okay, I'll tell you. Nobody asked. Except the ones who are asking. It would seem like I just turned a page. Because there's someone in here who wants to know what a crop circle is. And so I'll tell you, it's a good thing you ask. It's an energy stamp from the future. How about that? Now you don't know anything more than you did before. Not a future that you went through. A future that has such a grand potential and a quantum state that is one with everything. You've already lived it. You're in an entangled state with that which you think has not happened, but which has happened so grandly, you already have peace on earth. And 21 years ago, I showed it to my partner so grandly. He can't deny it. It's his reality. And there are things in the room you can't deny, because there are realities of you putting lives together, healing bodies that you've already done. That's how grand it is. You're in an entangled state with a reality that's outside of your dimensional perception. Hard to teach, hard to understand, but easy to feel. Easy to feel. Imagine the solution is upon you. Imagine those things which you're planning already completed. Imagine yourself looking backwards and saying, "Now that wasn't too hard, was it?" Imagine the most perplexing things you brought to the table today over with. How do you feel about it? And human being, if you can take a breath of release and look at it like I can, you are becoming quantum. And you've just created it. Congratulations. Now go from this place in your three-dimensional way and walk through the steps that you've already done. And that's my message. Information is energy in a multi-dimensional state. All things are possible. You come here to listen to a thing like this, old soul, you wouldn't have missed this. I'm not talking about this meeting, I'm talking about this life. How many times have you lived waiting for this? What do you think the wisdom factor is in your Akashic record? If you've lived and lived and lived and lived and lived, how about that track of time? How many layers does it have for you? What about going in, drilling down, and picking up the wisdom of your ancients? Because many of you are your own ancestors. It's about time you started seeing it in that way. My partner says, leave differently than you came. He got that from me. Do it. Do it. And so it is.
So, why don't you close your eyes and take a breath with me. Big inhale. And another inhale. And let your body soften, relax. Your shoulders, just like the back of the chair supports you, the bottom of the chair. Feel where your feet are on the floor. And let the top of your head just gently float up, like your head is weightless. Your neck is soft. And just feel the gentleness of your breath coming in and out. And know that you don't need to have a thought about anything. And just let your awareness be in this moment of healing potentials, healing possibilities, and the energy around you of love. Because that's where that healing comes from, is the energy of honoring and love that Kryon has for humanity. And as you let that honoring enter your heart, feel it soften and expand. Feel a warm, glowing place there. And know that in this very moment, the arms of Spirit embrace you and honor you and are ready to give you that great gift of healing and a look at your own divinity.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Channeling is not always the same. From my partner, it's not always the same. The messages are sometimes tailored for those in the chairs. The agreement with my partner is that all recording will be done of all messages all the time. Sometimes they are so personal that we stop the process, mysterious as it may be to him as an engineer, why it doesn't work. But he goes through the motions of recording anyway. Some may listen to this message that we give in these last moments of the day, and they will not feel what you're going to feel here in the chairs because they haven't been here. Now, some of you are aware because you can see my partner's field that when he stands to give you his lectures, I'm here with him. The idea of sitting in a chair and throwing a switch for Kryon went away years ago for him. He lives with me. I live with him. There's a marriage here. There's a focus here. There's an agreement here. That as he speaks anywhere, I can pop in. And I can give direction. And some will hear it and some will not. Some will see the difference because when I come in, his aura changes. The field around him, called the aura, which is more than what you think an aura is, repatterns itself instantly. I come and I go. Some of you are sensitive and you can tell it, you can see it. He's been channeling all day. I know who's here. Those who may hear this, who are not here, may not understand these few words I have and what we're going to say and what we're going to do. Sometimes the channelings have profound information that are new, historical processes just coming, future and predictions, and some of them are not. Some of them are just us sitting here together, loving each other, discussing what is happening in the room, and those who will listen later is like flies on the wall. That's one of these channelings. For those listening to this after the fact, I want you to be aware. You're just listening to what is going on in a room full of light workers. Because this is for them. You in the chairs right now. Not for the others. There's a wind blowing through this room of spiritual purpose. And it's touching all of those who want to feel it. We never said those words before. Sometimes there's a synchronicity of light workers and old souls that come together in a perfect way in order to accomplish things. There's a reason why you met today, a reason why there's a camaraderie today, and you don't know one another, not really. But you don't have to. All of you have that which is in you, which is the essence of God. You have God inside. I have an invitation for some of you right now. It's difficult to even name it. Humans want titles. What's the channel about, they say. Give it a title, we'll feel better. Give it some words, give it some linear grounding by giving it a title. And somehow, then they can file it in some magic, logical filing cabinet and make it all right. What if I said this is titleless? You're not going to like that. So I'll call it something. Completing the circle. Listen to me. That which is human is often very linear. All you can be is what you know and what has been. It is so difficult for you to step out of one thing into another when you don't know where you're stepping. If we told everyone here we need you to move into an area of reality that is different from yours, where you can't see the ground you're walking on, but you have to trust it's there, or you're going to feel bigger than you are even though your physicality hasn't moved, or that you're going to be in two places at the same time, get used to it. Many of you would have said, I don't think I'll do that today. There would be disorientation, there would be dizziness perhaps, there would be this, there would be that. It doesn't suit you in the physical. I don't blame you. There is fear of these kinds of changes. When things are working for you, why change them? You tend to think in this fashion. It's understandable, totally. But as you think this way, you stay in a straight line. You live in a straight line. And the relationships that you have, all except for one or two, are in a straight line. Listen, you're not even aware of the linearity of the straight line. It starts early with your parents. There's communication from your mom, from your dad to you and back. It's a straight line, A to B, B to A, A to B, B to A. They tell you to do one thing, you do it. The actionable items are in a straight line. The instructions are given, linear, in a straight line. You grow up, and the relationships you have with others, one to another, one singularity to another, one line to another. A straight line here, a straight line there, a straight line there. You're not aware of the unnaturalness of this. When you look into space, what do you see? Circles. Spheres. Dear ones, the only straight lines you see in space are the ones you draw between constellations. It's not natural. When you look at how chemistry works in the human body, it's a closed system in a circle. Very few, if any, real straight lines. It's physics, it's in 3D, and yet it's built in a circle. The very life-giving fluid called blood pumps in a circle. And there you are, A to B, B to A. You get spiritual, and it doesn't matter what the doctrine is, it doesn't matter what you believe. There is God, and then there's you. And God is always enormous and huge and beautiful, and there you are, little. And even if you draw a relationship to God timidly, it's a straight line to the Almighty. Sometimes you're on your knees and on your faces in a straight line to God. God is big, you're not. And then when you need help, it's help me, God. You talk to God, God talks to you in a straight line. You're not even aware of the circle. You go to those who are spiritual for help, it's the same way. Everything, all that is a relationship to you, whether it's professional or spiritual, tends to work in a straight line. All except one. If you start to have love in your life, it's magic. Whether it's human to human, human to child, human to animal, When you have love, you open the circle. And suddenly everything is different. The love is an emotion, but it's more. Since it's the basic energy of the universe, it's enhanced because it's created. It doesn't come from the brain. It doesn't even come from the heart. It comes from the trilogy of the brain, heart, pineal. Innate is involved. Whole body experience, all cells are involved. You know that. When you fall in love, your chemistry is affected. The circle is complete. When you love an animal, when you love a child, they love you back and they hug you, you feel so complete. The completeness you feel is a relaxation into the arms of love. It's a circle. Because it's returned in a way you might even say is beyond reality. You might even say it's multidimensional. You might say it's a quantum feeling. It comes back on yourself. The circle is complete. It keeps going. It gets enhanced. And then you love it. You love even more. There are those of you who are in love with the planet. You're called tree huggers. And while you're hugging the tree, the circle is complete. You feel that which is nature hugging you back, responding to you in a language you don't even know is there. That is multidimensional. When Gaia can speak to the human being in such a way that the human says, I can live in the forest and eat and be happy alone. Because I have the love of this planet, and I feel the animals and the trees. I feel the birds in the sky all as one thing. And I'm in love with this. It's a circle. When you look at the directions on the planet, it's a circle. The points of the compass, it's a circle. When you look at that, what you call the zodiac, it's a circle. On and on and on. When you take a look at the construction of music, the circle of fifths, ninths, whatever you want to call it, it's always a circle. Every musician knows this. All around you are the circles. And yet, the relationship you have with God is still a straight line. You think you're stuck. You come here and you say, how can I do this? How can I do that? Some of you even go so far as to say, help me, God, help me, Kryon. And what you're saying is, here, I'm here and I'm helpless. Please do something to me. Oh, how linear. Ones in this room, I want to tell you something. Every single one of you right now who is in perhaps even marginal distress or curiosity or feels stuck has a circle inside you you have not connected yet. And the circle is with the creative source. And it's the circle of love that the cells will awaken. When it's completed, you will start to see this circle non-linear, like everything else in this universe that works together. When you start connecting the circle, you'll understand that God is inside you and outside you. The linear human being thinks they're separate and apart from the creative source. That is how you're taught. When you go to the doctor, you're separate and apart from the doctor. The doctor tells you this and that. It's linear. You take a medicine. It's linear. You're there, it's there. It's going to help you if you're lucky. That's not a circle. Love is a circle. The more you give, the more it's returned. The bigger it gets, the more satisfying it becomes. The more you can touch your heart and say, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced. Whether you're in the forest, whether you're with another human, whether you're within your child, with your whether you're in love, it's different than being linear. And that is what you have here. The potentials are enormous. There are readers here that don't know they're readers yet. There are the ones who are completely and totally healed that don't know they're healed yet. Because the circle has not yet been complete. Are you ready? There's a wind passing through this place of spiritual purpose and healing that is ready to touch you, to make you feel more complete in the circle. Some of you are understanding this, and some of you are not. Kryon, what do we have to do? I want you to relax and metaphorically understand that if you will then fall in love with that which is inside you and connected to the creative source, you'll stop being linear. The circle will start to be complete between that which is creation, that which is healing, that's with you, that's love, and the healing in your body will start. The balance will start to return. The purpose in your life will start to be known. The things that have happened recently to you, which have devastated you, will start to make sense, and you will stand in joy that they happened, because you'll see a bigger picture of who you are. There's a wind passing through this place that is ready to put anyone in a circle who wants to complete it. I speak metaphorically, metaphysically, esoterically. I speak in concepts. There's the third language going on. There's a wind going through this place. And I want you to stop and feel it now, because it's for you sitting in the chair. Do you dare feel it? Physically, perhaps you can feel it. It's really not physical. When love passes through cellular structure and completes the circle, life begins. Spiritual life can begin right now. For some of you who came for this in this place, we've never done this before. Ever. Those who are watching and listening at a future time are starting to realize this is a very special channel. Now I want to get real quantum with the listener who is not here. I want you to take a moment, and I want you to give intuitive energy for those sitting in the chairs. And you'll say, well, it's a little late, Kryon, because the ones who are listening are at a later time. This is now, this is then. And I'll say, oh, how linear. You're not in the circle, are you? You see, the circle is timeless. You help each other, even from past lives. It's bigger than you think. The process is more complex, and yet it's simple. Because love takes care of itself. We said it before. You don't have to understand the mechanics in order to appreciate them, feel them, and use them. That's the way love is. The essence of your healing, that which you came for, which was situational, the emotions you're asking for, all the things you come with, when you connect the circle, will start to be solved. That's the message. And connecting the circle is not a linear thing. It's not something that is even what you would normally do. This is different. There are those who are going to go on to help a lot of people here if you connect the circle. That's what old souls are here for. There's a wind passing through this place. Just for a few more moments, I want you to grab it. Take it. Apply it to yourself and see in you the circle. Make it gold. Make it violet. Make it silver. Make it a gemstone. Make it anything you need to, metaphorically, for it to be pure. Make it shine and sparkle. Put it inside and keep it there. And never let go of the ring. The connection is with the Creator, which has always been with you. Always. A little different tonight, isn't it? We'll see whether this recording makes it or not, depending upon certain attributes that you don't know about. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service, telling you about God inside, about a new energy for the planet, about your lineage and your future. Be peaceful with these things, for they are beautiful. And so it is.
So yesterday we went and connected with an animal guide, and I loved the sharing that people had with me about their particular connections, and some interesting things arose where one animal guide connected, but when they emerged outside it was a different animal. And so that is multidimensional, which is what Kryon keeps telling us to be. So don't be confused by that. Embrace that. If you have an animal guide that comes to you and then it becomes a different animal guide, just know that it is perfect in the moment that you need. And what I would like to do is to continue that connection that we have created with our animal guide, if that's okay with everyone else, to go in and connect and keep traveling with our animal guide. So with that, I invite you to go to that place where you connected with your animal guide and greet each other. Welcome, hello, thank you, I see you. Thank you for this beautiful connection we share. And once you've established that connection, let us continue our journey as we walk along a path and we come across a river. And the river is the river of learning. And there is a desire to cross this river of learning and arrive into the land of knowledge. And so together with your guide, what is the way that you are now going to cross that river of learning? Take a moment to work out how together you are going to cross that river of learning. And trust that those answers are already there. Because there's been many, many times you have crossed your own river of learning. And as you're in that river of learning and going through now, realize how easy it actually is to do that, especially that you have guidance from your animal guide helping you to do so. And so now as you come across the shoreline, you come up onto the land of knowledge. And what is that knowledge that you now have? Is it possible that within you, you have the ability to manifest and connect with the guides that you need for whatever situation you come across? And there is a willingness from the guides that come within you and the ones that come to greet you. For the animal guides, which are part of Gaia, are still a part of you. You came from the earth. You are made of carbon. Within you is the biology that grew from this planet. And so those animal guides that connect with you are part of you. And so here you stand in the land of learning, ready for the next lesson.
Allow yourself to extend the learning and the knowledge that you are receiving from your guide, as Monica so beautifully guided us, from the animals, from your own personal guide that emerged from you here in the valley, to also extend yourself more into the land, connecting yourself as we're sitting here all together in the slope of a beautiful area, looking over on the other side, this teardrop arch, and beneath us is the beautiful valley of Monument with its peaks and columns. The air is blowing softly, caressing us, loving us, welcoming us, greeting us, blessing us, just as we bless it back from our hearts in gratitude, with love, with our compassion, with our presence, our beingness here, just being together, honoring the sacredness of the community, the people, the souls that are the caretakers of this land, and their ancestors that came before them. And feeling more of that collective unity and connection we all share with all living beings, with all living souls, animals, and the plants and the rocks. They all have consciousness. They all have different levels, different forms of energies. And this is such a beautiful space. We can deepen our connection to Mother Earth, to Gaia, as Father Sky looking upon us and smiling, with the multidimensionality that exists in everything and everywhere. Breathe and allow yourself to feel even more your sacredness, your beauty, your magnificence, your light and divinity, and connection to Source, to God, to Creator, to Spirit, that has no beginning and no end, that was always here and always will be, that love us unconditionally, beyond anything we could ever comprehend, but we can deeply feel when we allow ourselves to love ourselves more with our hearts. So breathe consciously, slowly, even more, connecting yourself right now, right here, in this moment, that will echo later on for you, whenever you want, when you tune back into this specific moment in this tour. Nijoni, beauty, beauty all around us.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. The meditations before this, the information that holds energy, it asks you to participate
But when channeling is done, it opens a mini portal. That's what the channeling is, dear ones. The portal is not massive. It's not like some that you would open with groups. It's a minuscule one of connection, but it's a portal. And before I will do this, on this sacred land, in front of those perhaps who steward the land, before I will do that, I am going to ask permissions of the guardian of the canyon, those who have watched over this, who have watched over the stewards of the land, and have come before anyone else. I am going to ask permission for that portal. Sometimes it makes no difference to have a group come in and have a spiritual portal open and a channel given in most lands. But when you deal with these kinds of lands, you deal with that which is truly a beautiful hierarchy of stewardship, of those who would honor this particular place and have for centuries. With that permission given, we can continue for the days that remain. And for those perhaps listening who know the Kryon work, you may say, well, we haven't really done that before much. And I will tell you, we've done it every single time it was needed. This shift that this planet is in has been prophesied by these ancients. You are sitting in their prophecy. So this is not new to them. All that has transpired in these past few years, difficult that it might be, was anticipated by those who have followed the prophecies and know the land. And in this shift, there is something happening regarding the consciousness of humanity. We've told you now for 33 years to expect something that you didn't expect. Who would have thought that the old energy of the planet, which is still raising its head right now, that energy eventually would go and be supplanted or replaced by a softer energy of caring, of compassion. I'll call it a family energy that says we do not want war. A family energy that says what is there that we have missed in that which we consider God, or that which comes from the love source, the creative source of all things. In other words, a consciousness that starts to advance itself in its own thinking. It raises itself to places it has never been before. This was the direct prophecy of the ancients all over the planet. And now you sit in that place. And in this, there are some new tools. I'm going to call them tools. But what they are is new awarenesses for you. If you are going to be one that I call old soul graduates or ascended ones someday, your ancestors someday, if that's going to happen, and we have predicted that it will, there has to come a time when you become more multidimensional and less linear. The linearity is that which you experience every day of life in the 4 dimensions you live and work in. But the dimensions that you can start to work with, that are indeed the dimensionality of Earth, of Gaia, of the guardians here, of the canyon, those dimensions you can start to see. And what I mean by seeing is not with your eyes. It's with the senses that you have beyond your eyes. The ones that so many know are there. Ones represented by the third eye, the bindi mark, the pineal, and so many of those who would celebrate in song and dance, even here. It's a celebration of things that are greater than you can conceive of in 4D. I want to introduce you to the ability to communicate with your soul. In order to do that, a brief summary of what the soul might be. What do you think of when somebody speaks the word soul? In the modern day religion of the times of this land, not the land we sit upon, but the culture of the greater continent, a soul is something you receive at birth often. Somehow it is apart from you, but it's very much aware of you, because when you pass, somehow that soul then gets rewarded or punished. And that is the purpose of the soul. I will tell you, dear ones, that's the kindergarten of all thinking when it comes to spirit. How many of you can feel in the sunlight, in the wind, that there is a consciousness of the land? Right now, that knows your name. That's because the land, Gaia, we call it, Pachamama, some call it, the love of the earth, is connected to the Creator. How could it not be? Everything you see around you was made at the same time. And dear ones, your soul was there to watch it. Your soul is the spiritual part of you, the God part of you. It is part of God. The creative source always existed, and with that creative source were trillions and trillions of that which were the source's partners, which we call souls. Did you know that? Were you ever told that? That makes the soul part of God. That makes you part of the Creator. When you come to this planet, all of that is hidden. As you begin the test of consciousness, which you are now in. But right now, you are in a crux that is going to change the planet very slowly. And in that, I invite you to meet your soul. And there will be those who ask how and what. And that is the subject of the channels in this great land. Wherever that takes us in this tour, these are the channels. The soul is accessible. In the circle of 12, we cross a bridge to get there. In the meditation of the partner Monica, it was the river that you crossed to take you there. There always is a barrier of thinking between 4 dimensions, practicality, and who you think you are to the next level. Some call it dream time. There are so many names that the indigenous will give it because they go there regularly. They go to that which is an upper world or an underworld to see things they need to see. There are so many stories of shamans which will then go to places, receive the information they need from that which is their spiritual soul, and come back and deliver their wisdom. Even that which is in the Old Testament, the metaphors are everywhere of this same property. Moses goes alone up the mountain to receive instructions. He is the shaman of that, his clan. It's everywhere, dear ones. And now we bring it home to you. Every single human being, old soul, has the ability to cross a bridge by themselves, if they choose to, and meet sections of their soul. This is the premise for the entire tour. And slowly I'm going to give you basic information about what is in your soul. Some of you already know, but I want you to understand it so greatly that you'll understand that it's not something separate from you any longer. That is what a higher consciousness brings, a higher connection to spirit, a higher connection to the land. It's an advancement, dear ones. And that higher connection, some have called a higher vibration, means more than just you sitting on a rock and singing. As some people say, that is what it is. It is not. It is far more spiritual, practical. It takes you someplace for a reason. If you're going to be in ascension status on this planet, you're going to have to understand a multi-dimensional connection, what the shamans know. And that is what we invite you to start understanding as we progress in this. It's going to sound a lot like Circle of 12, because we're going to ask you in every single lesson for your permission to go across a 4-dimensional bridge or barrier into a multidimensional place. And I'll describe it for you. You don't have to even imagine it. I'll tell you what's there. And I do that so that you will understand you can do it. And there are those who would sit and say, why? Beyond that, which is a higher consciousness of humanity, what happens to me? And that's where it gets good. Dear ones, it means longer life. It means more joy. It means understanding the not understandable. Have you ever sat and pondered why things are happening to you? Have you ever sat and pondered why things are happening to the earth the way they are? Have you ever sat and asked your own guides what's next because you're at a dead end? I'll tell you this, all of those answers are there for you. You become your own guide when you're in connection with your own soul. This is dramatic. It's more than was expected. It's controversial in metaphysics, and there will be those who tell you it's not possible, it never was possible. And if there are those around, I will tell them, it's time you read the prophecy of the ancients, because they told you it was coming. And it is. That's what to expect. And these, the few lessons to follow. What is there? What could possibly be there that can help you on your life? Healthy? Younger? All of these things are possible because you figure things out and you rest in the love that is there. If you know what's happening, you don't have anxiety or fear. And that's your soul telling you what's happening. Do you understand the premise? The deeper you go into that which is yourself and your own spirituality, the more you relax, the more you can laugh, the more you find yourself smiling for no reason, and you realize that there is truth when you hear, "Be still and know you are God." How would you like to have comfortable answers to difficult problems? That's available. We'll start that tomorrow. You're in a perfect place for this. Feel it, understand it, expect it. And lastly, this: if you're here, sitting on a rock, and you're saying, "This is a mystery to me. I really haven't done this much. I don't know where to begin." Here are my instructions. Number one, do you believe in the creative source? I think the answer would be yes. You call it God. Number two, do you believe a truth I've given you, that God, Spirit, knows who you are, and that there is angelic energies here on the rocks with you? Yes or no? Then here are your instructions. Dear Spirit, I'm in the dark. On some things, show me what it is I need to know. Take my hand and let's cross that bridge of knowledge together so I won't have to figure it out myself. And that's when the magic begins. It's called pure intent. You are heard. Definitely, you're heard. Gaia hears you now. Spirit hears you now. The guardians of the canyon, the ancients that have passed through here, they smile because you have just done what they know is possible. I am in Kryon, in love with humanity. And so it is.